Hello, welcome to At Face Value.
where we talk about the cost of fitting in.
Beauty standards are something that have existed for years, decades, and even centuries, even in artistic expressions that date back to empirical times. Men are depicted as tall, brooding figures with physiques of warriors, whereas women are often portrayed as submissive, nurturing, motherly, with delicate feminine frames.
The point to be made here is that beauty standards have always existed. It is not something new that has cropped up due to social media. Speaking of social media, that's where the matter we want to tackle comes in. Influencers frequently post pictures and videos of themselves showing off the glamour of their lives. Similar to beauty standards, showmanship and keeping of false appearances is not new.
But behind these standards lies a dark reality. Women starve themselves, surviving for weeks on nothing but ice cubes, whereas men put their health at risk by taking steroids to improve muscle recovery.
So that's what we want to explore today comes in. Beauty standards are not a new thing, but should they really be normalized? They have an impact, but to what extent does that impact go?
That is why we have a very special guest here with us today.
Today on At Face Value, we have Ms. Tanvi Bajaj, a renowned psychotherapist with over 15 years of experience as a well-being facilitator, has worked with over 5,000 clients, which include students and adults, and is a published author. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So glad to have you here, Ms. Tanvi. As we've spoken before, the topic of our podcast is to basically understand how cultural norms and values affect beauty standards and how that affect people's mental health. So, according to you, I just want a little explanation. What exactly are beauty standards, in your words?
I think beauty standards are defined by the society, so they vary from culture to culture. Different social communities have different beauty standards. Some, unfortunately, are sort of universal, but these are standards that, or rules or norms that would typically be considered attractive, desirable, mostly with physical appearance. What has been normalized as the right way to look, or the right way of dressing up, or the right way of appearing. Everything around physical appearance that has been set as right by the society, I think, is what beauty standards would be.
And of course, beauty standards differ from place to place. They're very vast, and they impact they impact everybody. But how do you believe that beauty standards affect the average person's self-esteem?
They're so deeply connected to a sense of self-worth, self-esteem, because beauty standards are just describing what is perfect, and constantly comparing ourselves to this idea of perfection, which in itself is an illusion. We're constantly comparing ourselves to that perfect figure, perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect muscular nature. We're comparing ourselves to this perfection which doesn't exist. So as a result, I'm constantly feeling like I'm falling short. I'm constantly feeling like I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough, I need to do more, look prettier, put more makeup, lose more weight, gain more weight, blah, 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 in order to meet that beauty standard. So how it affects self-esteem is it's constantly reinforcing this feeling of not being enough, which can be so detrimental to mental health, to just well-being in general, and so closely connected to a sense of self and self-worth.
All right. In our increasingly modern world, technology and especially AI play a very important role in everything that is there around us. So, what do you think artificial beautifiers such as filters and AI generated images play on beauty standards and their effect on people?
I think it's only made it worse because of these unrealistic filters and spotless appearances and perfect jawlines and all of the editing that generative AI can make us do. It's only made that idea of perfection even more perfect, like that was even possible. And now we're chasing that. In fact, one of the articles that I was reading on this, surgeons have actually said that people are coming in with selfie with filters and saying that they want to look like this. So they want to get cosmetic surgeries done to look like something which is a digital version of themselves.
People told cosmetic surgeons this.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what the reports were saying, that surgeons have actually shared that people are walking in with selfies with filters on, saying that this is what they want to look like. So the surgeons are expected to transform them into this digital life, but it's only making it worse. And anyway, the gap between what is real and what is this fantasy, imaginative, ideal selves is just getting widened because of AI.
Why do you think that people are unable to recognize this gap and recognize the fact that it's only getting bigger with time?
It's not that people aren't able to recognize. I mean, you speak to your peers, you all would say, oh, of course, what is on social media is fake, what is on real life is not as true as real life. Everybody has the awareness. But it's the feeling and the emotional sense, and even that, the whole dopamine addiction with reels, right? Why are we scrolling all the time? Because of there's a certain dopamine hit, that rush that we get because of reels. So we're getting caught up in this loop of recognizing yet unable to step away from it. But as a result, what is happening is that the emotions and the self-esteem is taking a toll. That is what is bearing the cost, because we recognize all of this very intellectually, but then we put the phone down and we start to feel awful about ourselves. So we're kind of stuck there. Also, I think why people are recognizing this now is you can see evidence of that because there are people talking about body positivity. There are people who are saying that I'm going to show up on Instagram or social media just the way I am. People can call me whatever they want to, can call me fat, can call me thin, call me whatever, colored skin, all of that. But they're really embracing that. Kam आवाज है उसका, not too many people, not too many voices, but it is becoming. Conversations like these are challenging beauty standards. So not to say the awareness is not increasing, but AI is messing up with that awareness now also.
All right. And of course, have you ever faced a notable situation where you felt uncomfortable in how you look or you didn't fit in? Any personal experience to share?
Yeah, I'm sure. Not so much in the recent past because I've really worked on myself and challenged where is this need to look a certain way coming from, and traced it back to, okay, this is socially derived, it's not mine. So I've kind of worked on myself and it's become a little better. But I do remember in college, was that in college? About 20 years ago or something, I went on this crash diet and I was only obsessed with losing weight. I didn't think what was the right way of losing. I didn't think of health. I just starved myself. I lost the weight. But now when I look back, I realize that it was such a unwise thing to do. Because I wanted to look a certain way, I actually harmed my body in that process. So yeah, that was me totally falling in for a certain beauty standard that I was fed while growing up.
All right. And speaking of online social media effects, do you think that influencers should be showing more realistic and less glamorous versions of themselves on social media? Do you think that is something that needs to be promoted and spoken more about, and said that they don't need those filters and makeup and stuff like that to make themselves look quote unquote better?
I think so. And I think there are influencers who are doing that. But yes, there needs to be more. The influencers have to give out information and whatever post feeds reel in a more sensitive manner, because there are a lot of people who are consuming them and we don't know who is on the other side of that phone who's receiving these messages. So yes, more realistic, more authentic, I would say. That even if they want to show a filter, I'm thinking before after, like this is what I look like and I love myself just the way I am. and I'm trying out this new filter, and this is also how I can look like through this filter. So I think realistic se zyada, I'm going to be rooting for authenticity. If they want to show another version of themselves, reveal the story behind it. Why is it that they want to show this version of themselves? Who are they outside of Instagram or outside of this version? So give the whole picture. Give this, but also give the other side. That's what I think would be more authentic showing up.
Show what it's like in the real world, of course.
Yeah, both. I mean, both. Why not, right? Like we see celebrities in movies, we know that okay, that's the character that they're playing, but we also see them on a candid talk show, and we say, okay, maybe that's them. And then there's another more real version of them, which friends and family would know. So there are so many different versions of each famous person. So if they can show up on social media with all of those versions and claim that authentically, that's what the viewers would benefit from.
All right.
Also, celebrities reminds me, who do you think, because ever since social media has come up, a lot of micro influencers have also popped up on social media that post these artificial filtered images of themselves. So who do you think has more impact on the layman, these micro influencers or celebrities who have been here much longer?
That's a good question. I think it would vary because phones have just in terms of reach and penetration have reached it's anytime access. I can pick up any time of the day, I can engage with it for as long as I want to. In that sense, the impact is a little bit more subliminal. For celebrities, it's a lot of overt exposure. It is more regulated in some sense. Thoda kam hai. So just in terms of the exposure, since social media can be more, it can have more impact. Also, the micro influencers do carry a little bit of relatability, like the girl next door, the guy next door. So, if it can happen to them, it can happen to me. Celebrities, बहुत time से हमारे अंदर एक conditioning है, it's them and us. Oh, celebrity. That means it's another. We're othering them in some way. But with influencers, it can be just anybody. So in that sense, also I think impact thoda zyada hoga. That's what I think. I mean,
yeah. That makes sense. It's like a class system, basically.
Yeah, kind of like that.
In a way, people
people
connect more to the micro influencers, is what you're saying.
Yes, and also because micro influencers are also from various strata in the society. So each kind of community, each sort of a sub-society can also find a micro-influencer within them. And that becomes their voice of influence or things like that. So celebrity थोड़ा दूर लगता है, ये थोड़ा पास लगता है, तो impact शायद ज़्यादा होगा.
All right. What would you say to somebody, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who constantly compares themselves to people they see online?
Can I be really direct and upfront?
Yes,
That's
of
the
course.
point, yeah.
Okay, don't let the algorithm fool you. Because that's what really this is. Anything what they see online is what is being fed to us. So we're letting some system manipulate how we think, how we behave, how we feel. It's almost like I'm giving up power and control over my life to a system, to an algorithm. So take back that charge, claim that back, that you have control over your life and the choices that you make. It's not what is fed. Yeah, I think that's what I would say. Because everyone knows that that's not real, that's fake, and still we're getting controlled by that. So we just want to take that claim back.
In your opinion, is the impact of beauty standards different between men and women? If so, how? Because, of course, we see beauty standards as something that is centered around women. Women dress this way, women put on all their makeup, but what society does not talk about is how it impacts men as well.
Yeah, I would love to hear Ranveer's thoughts on this also.
Sure. I mean, I've been skinny all my life. So all of the mesomorphs and endomorphs around me have, I would say, I've faced some share of bullying as well for my smaller frame. But I just eventually, I'd say it kind of helped me grow thick skin as well. So yeah, I mean, it's not like beauty standards don't exist for us, but it's just that we don't talk about it. That's it. They exist, but we just don't address them. Like they're just elephants in the room. We don't address them.
Exactly. I think you really nailed it, Ranveer. That is the big difference between the impact of beauty standards for women and for men. For women, it's spoken about. There are voices against it. There's so much happening in a women's context, but for men, it's not spoken about. The emotional impact is so intense for men, but what makes it worse for men is that they're dealing with it in isolation. They're dealing with it without support, without conversations with other men about it, so there's a lot of loneliness around the issue for them, which for women somewhere is a little easier because it's just so much more spoken about for women. Even amongst each other, they're more open about it, and there are conversations that can happen. But with men, it's just, I think there's another layer to it. So the impact is same for both on the outside, but the inner experience is a little bit more layered and nuanced for men, I think.
And of course, all of these feelings and all this impact that both men and women get, how do you think it impacts a person's mental health? Is there any way it can cause some mental health issues or diseases, or a person to develop such conditions regarding their mental health?
Absolutely. I see this in my practice all the time. I work with age groups between 18 to 50. And where this sort of all goes and settles in is in this idea of I'm not enough, which can look like imposter syndrome when they're slightly older, which can look like self doubt, all of these different ways in which it shows up, but it's somewhere connected to their sense of comfort in how they look, how comfortable they are in their own skin. So it starts from there. It starts from there at a young age. It can, and because it can impact something as deep as sense of self-worth, self-esteem. It can lead to feelings of depression or just imagine somebody who's always living with this thought that, am I doing this right? Is this okay? Is this enough? Did I say the right thing? Or maybe I shouldn't have said that. Or maybe I didn't do that well. Imagine a perpetual state of that. What would that do to someone's mental health?
It eats away at you.
Sorry?
It eats away at you.
It totally eats away at you. It's constantly like termite, right, inside. You might be doing so much on the outside, but this nagging feeling on the inside doesn't go. That's what beauty standards can feed.
And of course, you said that this starts at a very early age. But do you think there is a difference in the impact of people who are exposed to social media and such beauty standards at a young age versus people who are exposed to them later on in life? For example, people who are exposed in their teenage years or in their early on, or worse compared to people who are exposed to this in their 20s?
Yes, I mean, I'm sure age does have a role to play because the mind is more impressionable at a younger age, and as they get older, they're slightly more clear on who they are, what they like, what their preferences are. So the circle of influence is much wider when they're growing up. That means anything and everyone can influence them, and they can get it. They can absorb it like a sponge. But as you grow older, the circle of influence becomes smaller. So someone in their 15, 16, 17 years of age would get deeply influenced by fewer people. Peers, close friends, few people they follow, their role models. So it narrows down. But it's not just this part that will. There are many other variables also. The environment that the child is growing up in, the kind of emotional safety the child is receiving from the environment, is the critical environment that the child is sort of, growing up in. What is that the psychosocial development looking like for the child would also play a huge role in how they receive this messaging from social media. So it's not just one thing that we can look at in isolation. We have to look at the whole context and whole picture to see how much that impact would be.
Do you think there is any positive way or any scope for improvement on this matter? Any way that people, even though people are speaking about it, do you think there is any way for it to improve on a global scale?
I think global is going to happen once the smaller, like the sum of the parts will eventually lead to a bigger change. But it has to happen in homes, in smaller conversations, in peer conversations, in sort of one friend catching on, calling out this behavior in another friend, saying, "But why? You actually look great. Why do you want to change this about you?" So it is a slow process. It is going to require time, consistency, a lot of communication, a lot of dialoguing around it, a lot of challenging those beliefs. And I think it's happening. It's already happening. It needs to happen a lot more. So even these conversations, I mean, who would have thought that a school project, say 20 years ago, would be on a topic like this? So I am very, very hopeful about that, and I think we just have to keep talking more about it, challenging it, reflecting more. There is just so much information available to an average 13-year-old now than what it was back in the day. So just building that reflexivity muscle that, okay, let me just check in with myself, pause, slow down, what's happening with Instagram, what's happening with whatever other social media addictions that we are sort of getting trapped in. बस वो reflexivity muscle थोड़ा हम develop करें, conversations करें, I think it can happen.
All right.
So, if we're talking about positives, that actually reminds me, I feel like the last decade or so has gone into a lot of body positivity. For example, the fat acceptance movement. We constantly been talking about how the impact it has on mental health, but I feel like this is going to be the most controversial question here. Do you think that these beauty standards can have any possible positive impact on a person?
I think from the lens that you are talking about, Ranveer, it already has. So with body positivity, with all the other movements that have happened about claiming how you look and being okay with that, whether it is skin tone. I remember, I'm forgetting which brand. There used to be Fair and Lovely earlier,
Yes.
and then it challenged to putting colored, women with colored skin on commercials, because this whole thing was being challenged that we can't. Modeling, there was a time when modeling and the perfect modeling figure was defined with certain dimensions. That has gotten changed too. We have plus sizes stores now in malls. So there is all of this which is being done to feel that you're okay the way you are, to bring in that feeling that you don't have to change. Because all of this is happening, I'm not saying body standards in itself cannot have a positive impact, but normalizing all kinds of bodies, that is having a positive impact. So we're in a way expanding the definition of body standards, or we're doing away with the definition of body standards, however you want to look at it. That is having a positive impact.
Before we end, do you have anything to say to to the people about this topic and how to face the challenges of this topic?
I think what I would just like to say is what I would like to say to my 20-year-old self.
Of course.
It wasn't worth it. It really wasn't worth it. So 20 years now, I can see that I wish I hadn't done that. I think that's what I want to say. And yeah. people can take that in any way they wish to.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Tanvi, for doing this with us. It was our honor to have you here.
Likewise. Thank you. It was a fun chat.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.